Charles, I think a lot of people were kind of on edge about the prospect of a potentially like world-ending nuclear war. But there are other topics that we could also discuss just to kind of keep people's minds off of that. Bill Clinton's got a new book full of tizen. How are you, Charles?
It's a great poster. The art department has outdone itself once again. No doubt the art department's slightly distracted because it's aware of the looming responsibility to have the best collection of these posters available for a certain somebody's second big screen TV, which will be installed. It's probably being installed as we speak.
Amazing. International construction projects underway. But seriously, Charles, this is kind of ridiculous. Joe Biden has just decided, hey, he's almost dead. Might as well destroy the world on his way out the door. I mean, what a dick. Has anybody ever done anything like this?
Well, again, there are fair questions about whether Joe Biden or Mr. Potato Head is running the country right now. I mean, even before the coup succeeded in getting him off the campaign trail, we have the undisputed fact that a special prosecutor declined to file charges because, but this is, I guess, more than a year ago, because that special prosecutor, Robert Hur, having interviewed Biden, concluded that he would be a sympathetic creature on the stand and that nobody would convict him because he's a senile, doddering fool. I mean, how Kamala Harris could be taken seriously as a presidential candidate when it fell to her to decide whether or not to invoke the 25th Amendment. And she clearly, either couldn't think the issue through or just decided to fold like the cheap suit that she is. And she failed to discharge her responsibility. Trump goes to meet with Biden, characterizes the meeting as being warm and friendly, and then Biden goes ahead, or the people who control Biden go ahead and pull this stunt, which is not merely, there are many things that are offensive about what has happened. The first is that it's not just U.S. missiles that were used. It turns out that British missiles were used. And in addition, it turns out that that Biden has authorized, in violation, I think, of an international treaty, has authorized the use of anti-personnel mines. I mean, where are the lefties now? Where's Bernie Sanders on all this? This is outrageous. Outrageous stuff.
And Charles, it was interesting because maybe a week or more ago, Putin gave a statement where he was talking about this category of weapons, and he said that this would mark a significant shift, not only because of the reach and the range of these things, but because they require this real-time intelligence from the United States and European, NATO member nations to operate these things. And so he said that this would be like, a declaration of war, essentially. And he said he's going to nuke, or he might nuke.
Right. I don't know how well you remember. I don't know at this point how well I remember 2016 after Trump won. There were all these, pointy-headed intellectuals running around, or fake intellectuals running around the world, getting in front of TV cameras saying that Trump's going to set off World War III. Trump did no such thing as president, right? And here Biden, who clearly is mentally incompetent, is doing these things while Kamala Harris is on vacation in Hawaii.
Absurd, right?
This is a complete, this is a gross dereliction of duty on both of their parts. I believe, is it Tom Massey, the congressman, I think is already, and some senators are agitating for invoking the 25th Amendment and then for impeaching Kamala.
I like that. It's like get into my office. You're fired.
Well, imagine if Trump had done this after he, quote, lost to Biden. Right? The same things that Biden is doing now.
Launch a war, right.
Exactly the same thing. So you would have Hillary Clinton and other neocons, suggesting that Trump should be, dragged out of the White House in the dead of night. And why I'm particularly exercised about this sets a very dangerous precedent if it's allowed to stand. That somebody, the election of 2024 was clearly a referendum on the Biden-Harris administration, right? The people spoke and they said, fuck you to Biden and Harris. Enough of this joyful campaign. Enough of this, Bidenomics is working. Yeah. Enough of, Pete Buttigieg flying around the world trying to figure out how many racist roads there are. Forget all this crap. We reject this administration. We reject the Harris campaign, and the people speak. Everything that the Democrats were saying is that Trump poses a threat to democracy. Trump is Adolf Hitler. Trump didn't jail 1,500 political opponents in the first administration. Trump didn't stick the federal government on one of the people who ran against Biden in the 2020 Democrat primaries, Tulsi Gabbard. Trump didn't do any of that. Biden is now doing exactly these things and does run the risk of triggering a nuclear exchange. And who is making these decisions? What role has Congress played in any of this?
Right.
And the mainstream press is still focused on, insanity, and isn't holding Biden and his administration to account here. I mean, this is really serious stuff.
Charles, what do you think about the fact that most of the response to Putin has just been, say he's bluffing and that they don't think he's going to do a nuclear war? It's crazy. I mean, I don't mean to sway your opinion, but I think it's crazy.
We've been over this, I think, time and again. And people who are nominally in charge of, quote, American foreign policy, really, I would argue from 1945 to the present, need to have their heads examined. And there needs to be a real critical evaluation of how the United States has gone so far wrong for so long in so many places. I mean, think about the situation. We lied our way into bombing Iraq, right, in 2003. We then, how many lives were lost, our American and other lives, over that? Predating 2003, how many lives were lost in Iraq and Iran by the United States instigating Saddam Hussein to fight Iran? I mean, it's a shit show. And you have all these guys, getting on mainstream press saying, well, I'm a foreign policy expert. I'm a former foreign ambassador. You're an ass crack. You're useless, most of these people. And we really do run the risk, if we're not already there, of being the laughingstock of the world, of what's left of the world.
Well, didn't they take the G20 picture without Joe Biden? He's like walking off into the jungle.
I mean, he's a very bad joke, but I mean, Harris is worse.
Show Joe.
And this mainstream press, The Guardian, get that piece of shit off the screen. I mean, The Guardian is a horrible newspaper.
No Joe.
I know. No show Joe.
Hey, this Argentina Milei, he did an interview. This was so interesting, Charles. So Lex Friedman interviewed, and you know what he did with 11 labs using Milei's voice, translated what Milei said into English. So it sounds like Milei speaking English. It was very interesting and well done, I thought.
Yeah, I couldn't watch all of it, but I did watch the beginning of it. Yeah,
he knows a lot about economics.
Well, the thing that's impressive, I've been to Argentina a number of different times. It's a wonderful place, and in fact, until the late 1880s, I think Argentina was a richer country than the United States. But it's a case study in what happens when you let socialism and corruption take hold of a rich place. And here, this Malay guy comes in, and in a short period of time, he's managed to tame inflation and get the government finances in place. And it's actually, if you've never been there, it's a very beautiful place with deep topsoil, great water, great wine, great steak, beautiful. And Buenos Aires is a beautiful city. Actually, I was there. I want to say I was there in 1987, I believe it was. And I was shocked to discover that Buenos Aires has a beautiful subway system, and truly beautiful. And I was there with Clarissa. We were actually, I was there in August, I believe it was, as part, I think that was when I went skiing in Chile. And we just spent the weekend in Buenos Aires, I believe, and I saw the Moscow Circus.
Wow.
In Buenos Aires in I think 1987. I believe
You should have gone to Chile for the cook-off, Charles. One question, though. Not to take you down a rabbit hole, but, it is interesting that Argentina and Buenos Aires were another, focus of the whole Nazi, end of World War II. What the hell's going on here? The ads have overtaken this page. I can't move around.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting hook. I mean, the question of were the Nazis actually vanquished?
Right. That's what I mean. They were doing stuff with moving wealth to Argentina and trying to make it a new base for some of their, criminal people who were escaping. And then maybe when that didn't work out, they crash it. Kind of similar to what Joe Biden is doing to the United States right now, destroying it on his way out.
Well, there's another report I read just before going on air that Putin is aware that, that Biden is irrelevant, and that no deal can be worked out with the current administration, and is hoping to work something out with Trump. I think they're pretty serious and smart people. But this is, I mean, they impeached Trump twice. The first time for taking a phone call with Zelensky on the basis of
right.
evidence, in quotes, supplied by a CIA junior analyst, Eric Ciarmella.
But Charles, what's the irony that Trump was saying, hey, what the hell's going on there in Ukraine? Next thing you know, Ukraine erupts into World War III. Trump was obviously doing something he should have been doing as president, looking into a big problem.
Exactly. And it's also crystal clear. I mean, it's one thing when, when the other side is so deceptive that you don't understand what's really going on. It's another thing when the Biden family goes from having one mansion it didn't deserve to having suddenly two, and all this income from nowhere. And then you learn in the run up to the 2020 election that all the papers that Biden has from his lengthy, quote, career of grifting are not going to be available because they're locked away at the University of Delaware or somewhere else. And then you see all the stuff about, the 51 crooks in the deep state say that the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. And when that's not the case, and still nothing has happened, right? Comer is talking, he has press conferences, but nothing has happened. Nothing has happened to Hunter, except he looked kind of vacant. It looked like he was on crack with his daughter there at Disneyland or wherever it was.
He did not look well, right?
Right. And so it shouldn't take, one of the things you learn when you make bad investments, and I've made bad investments as well as good ones, is that the longer you allow a bad investment to continue to lose money, the worse it is for you. And the notion that Hunter Biden would create a new global investment bank when he's not busy, smoking crack and chasing prostitutes, to compete with the likes of Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and others, is laughable on its face. Right? Any business plan that would reach a serious investor arguing that would be laughed out of the room. Of course, that was simply a way for Biden to sell his influence through
Now,
his
wait a
son.
minute.
This is
Charles,
transparently obvious.
this is Bo Jr. I thought this was, what's the girl's name who is from the Waitress
The
or
stripper?
yeah. That's not this kid. This is Bo Jr.
Okay.
And by the way, who is this?
Again, the Biden family is transparently corrupt.
Oh, that's the wife.
Right? The Biden family is transparently corrupt. All aspects of it. As is the Pelosi family. As is the Clinton family. These are people who have monetized their quote government service, and the people who are paying them off are more than happy to pay these bribes because they're a lot less than the fines that they would otherwise have to pay if the government did its job properly and protected the interests of the American citizen. Which brings us back, I don't know how much more time we have, but it brings us back to the art department's great cover. And there are kind of two hooks here. The first is, I was shocked when I did the research my first question I had when I saw this book is, who the hell would publish this piece of crap? And it turns out it's one of the, if not the biggest, one of the biggest publishing groups out there. It's called Bertelsmann. And you look it up, the specific imprint that I think I forget which imprint did this actual book, whether it's KNOPF, which I think is pronounced Knopf, or Penguin, I guess.
Penguin, Random House.
But that's part of the Bertelsmann Publishing Group. And when you look up that Bertelsmann Publishing Group, you discover that it rose to prominence in the Nazi period. And then it tried to cover up the fact that it had Nazi ties, and it was forced to explain the cover-up.
Let me guess. We didn't want to tell you the truth because we thought it would upset you. Oh, yes.
We didn't want to make you mad.
Before. The publishing house Bertelsmann played a prominent role in Nazi Germany, becoming a leading supplier to the Wehrmacht during World War II, affordable editions. Yeah, I mean, this is like from that book, Nazi Billionaires. Any German company that you've heard of was basically, it doesn't exist now if it wasn't working with the Nazis.
Right, but so my point, though, is if you're the former president of the United States, I mean, there's a great story, and Bill actually mentions this, that Ulysses Grant, the autobiography of Ulysses Grant, is thought to be one of the best autobiographies ever written by a president. And Ulysses Grant was a very, I'm not an expert on him, but my recollection is that he was a very controversial guy. He obviously was a Union general and was instrumental in the victory, and then he became president, but he got into business with a crook. So does that sound familiar? And unlike Bill Clinton, basically spent his final moments were on this autobiography and used much of the proceeds to settle his debts. So he was an honorable man, Ulysses Grant. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, in this book, and it's shocking to me because, in my experience as an investment banker, long ago, obviously, every deal that we did of consequence above a certain size, we knew was likely going to get mired in lawsuits, because that's just the way it works. Not because we did anything wrong, but because people will sue as a deal comes closer to closing, often on spurious grounds, just in the hopes of getting some kind of paltry settlement so that the deal doesn't get delayed. So we were super careful on any written work that we did, and far more careful, obviously, than the publishers who vetted this book. Because Bill again makes the spurious claim that he created the Clinton Foundation in 2001. That is just not true. The it's just obviously not true. The FBI investigated the Clinton Foundation from 2001 to 2005 in that period, Bill Clinton was never an officer, director, or significant employee of the main Clinton Presidential Foundation. He just wasn't. It's in their own filings, right? And it never registered in New York in 2001. And it didn't register until it did so illegally in 2009, lying about it. So it's just, how this book, Citizen, which is all about Bill's post-presidency and apparently endlessly discusses what he did via the Clinton Foundation, how this thing could be published is beyond me. And if you were going to get it published, why would you pick Bertelsmann? I mean, Bill could have any publishing firm he wanted to do this book. So we'll get it, in the First Amendment Forum, we'll get into this in a bit more detail, but I really think the art department's title is far better than the Bertelsmann title.
I guess Bill did not see the Wikipedia page talking about Bertelsmann admitting to the Nazis helping them build the empire. It says Europe. This is from 2002, Charles. Europe's largest media group, Bertelsmann, headquartered in the small provincial town of Gütersloh in northwest Germany, admitted Monday that its rise to prominence was founded on close contacts with the Nazi regime during the Second World War.
Is that bad?
Well, it was shocking then, but it's, we're almost 25 years on from this now. It's kind of old news, right?
Well, again, this idea, when I was a kid, I was born 11 years after World War II was, in theory, over. There were a lot of then in my youth. There were a lot of television shows and movies based on on World War II and Nazis and this and that. But I was under the impression, naively, that the Nazis had been expunged. Right? And maybe they're not called Nazis now. Maybe they're called globalists. And maybe
that's
Klaus
just
Schwab.
I think that's it.
I mean, does Klaus Schwab have any ties to the Nazis?
I'm pretty sure yes.
All right. And maybe Elon Musk should be a lot more concerned about this question than he is. Maybe Joe Rogan should be too.
Well, Charles, we're almost at the just about 2 minutes. We're going to make our way over to the First Amendment Forum. We can continue talking about this Operation Paperclip and things like that. Here's, did George Soros or Klaus Schwab's father work for Hitler? Nah, they just worked for other Nazis, not directly for Hitler. They just helped them. Yeah, I think Klaus Schwab's father. Let's see what Snopes says about it.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab's father was a Nazi,
I think that's right.
Again, during World War II period, you're either, if you're an adult male, you're either, in the military service or you're condoning what the Nazis did.
This says there's no evidence. So on the left, you can see the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. On the right, his father, intimate confidant of Hitler. I mean, just even if the guy's name is Schwab, that's still, this is, Eugene Schwab, but there's got to be a million German guys named Schwab. I do admit they look pretty similar.
Well, but Klaus Schwab is a knuckle. Seriously. Yeah. You have that picture of him in the spacesuit.
I think he's dead now or something, isn't he? Or stroked out?
I think he was kicked out of the World Economic Forum, but the guy an active guy there is even worse. There's a guy there. He's some kind of Islamic name.
Charles, welcome to the Interplanetary Federation.
Yeah, where's my medallion?
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, all right, listen, Charles, let's we'll make our way over here to the First Amendment Forum. People can join us and watch us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Thanks to everybody who's sponsoring the show. We have a lot to discuss with Operation Paperclip and this globalist Nazi. Also, everything. We got a lot to discuss. Stay with us, everybody. We'll